Hey guys, just let me know if you guys can hear me before I start, please. Okay, great. All right, so the paper that I'm doing tonight here is May 2025. I just kind of skimmed through the paper here, but I'm seeing a ton of questions being repeated. So, right, so I can't say sorry about that. That's just how it is. So we have minus 3 squared plus minus 2 squared. Okay, we've seen this question before. This is going to be 9 plus 4, and that's going to give us 13. Now, I think I saw some new questions on the paper here. So let's see if you can see. For example, this next one here, question 2 here. This is a question I could see students getting wrong in the exam. What percentage of 40 is 50, right? What do you all think is the answer for this question here? This is actually a trick question, right? What percentage of 40 is 50? What do you all think about this one? Right? What percentage of 40 is 50? Okay. Like I said, this is one of those questions here that could trick you. So first of all, the is part goes on top, right? So some students automatically think that the 40 is supposed to be on top here. But in this case here, the 50 is supposed to be on top. So it's 50 over 40 multiplied by 100, if you want to convert that to a percentage. So in this case here, this 0 will cancel with this. This 4 will go into this 25 times, and 25 by 5 will give me 125%. Okay, be careful with this question. Huh? This is a question I can see people getting wrong in the exam. Okay, the answer is not C, it's not 80%. Read it carefully. This third one here, we saw this one already as well. All right, what number when added to 1 1/3 gives 2? So we saw this before. The answer is going to be 2/3, right? The answer is 2/3. All right, I'm not going to work this through again because this is pretty straightforward. Basically, we have 1 1/3 plus something in a box, and it'll equal to 2. So if you want to work out what that box is there, right, we can say 2 minus 1 1/3, which is going to give us 2/3. So that's number 3. Number 4, I'm not sure if it's the exact same question that we've seen before. So we have 235 multiplied by 48.7, and we get 11444.5. But this time we're going to multiply 0.235 multiplied by 48.7. So in this case here, what are we doing here? When I go from, if I change 235 to 0.235, you are dividing by 1, 2, 3 by 1,000. And for this one here, right, what are we doing? Nothing, we're not changing anything, right? So you notice the question is a little different, you know, right? The question is a little different. So in this case here, you divide it by 1,000 to get the 0.235. And in this case, we've done nothing to the 48.7. So all I need to do is to divide this answer here by 1,000. And in this case here, you're just going to move your decimal point 1. You're going to move it 1, 2, 3. So it's the same answer from the previous question. They just did it a little differently. So it's 11.445. So that's going to be A. It's going to be A. All right, that's number 4. Number 5 here, we have a pattern, right? I think we saw the same one last night. We have 1, we have 6, we have 13, we have 22, we have 33. So in this case here, what I will do, I will look to see what the increase is. So we increase by 5, we increase by 7, we increase by 9, we increase by 11. So the next increase is going to be by 13 because we increase it in terms of odd numbers. So we just need to take 33 and add it to 13. So we're going to get 46. All right. So in this case here, the answer is going to be C. All right, let's see what happened here now. Dan sold a certain number of tickets in 3 days. The ratio of the number of tickets sold over the 3 days is 3 to 7 to 5. So let's look at the 3 days here. We have day 1, we have day 2, and we have day 3. And the ratio is 3 to 7 to 5. He sold 8 more tickets on day 2 than on day 3. Right? Make sure I'm reading that correct. Now the question looking a little different though. Huh? So he sold 8 more tickets on day 2 than day 3. So first of all, let's figure out what's the total number of parts that we have here for this ratio. That's 7 and 3, 10 and 5, 15. So we have 15 equal parts. Right? That's the ratio there. So he sold 8 more on day 2. So this is day 2 here than on day 3. So if we look at the difference between these here, that is actually 2 parts. Right? Now that 2 parts there is actually equal to, they said 8 more tickets. So that's actually 8 tickets. So we could work out 1 part. So 1 part is simply going to be 8 over 2. So 1 part is really 4 tickets. Right? So the question is a little different to what we saw before. So if you want to work out the tickets he sold all together, that's all. So we need to work out for 15 parts. So it's going to be 15 multiplied by 4. 5 4 is 20. 1 4 is 4 and 2 6. So he sold a total of 60 tickets here. The answer is B. Yeah, try not to get these questions wrong, right? Be careful with these questions here because you notice this ratio question is a little different from what we saw before. It looks identical, but it's not the same question. Right? So that's number 6. Number 7. What do we have here? So we have a set defined by integers. We're going from -2 to 4. So if we need to include the -2, we have to include the 4 based on the inequality sign. So we must start off at -2 and we must include 4. So the answer is D. Right? Question 8 now. So the question is changed now. Which of the following is an example of a 2-digit positive integers that are divisible by 6? What do you all think the answer is for this one? Which of the following is an example of a 2-digit positive integers that are divisible by 6? You notice the question is all different, right? So you have to be careful. Ah. Right, so some of y'all are thinking about it, right? Some of y'all thinking about it. So first of all, they said two-digit positive integers. So the first two-digit positive integer will be 10, 11. I'm just trying to show you what the numbers could be, right? 12, 13, and we keep going, right? Until we reach 99 will be the last two-digit positive number, right? So this set here, first of all, is a finite set. But then they come and they said divisible by 6, right? So numbers divisible by 6 would be like 12, right? Next number will be 18, right? Then 24, and so we keep going, right? So in this case here, you can actually count all the members in this set. This set of two-digit numbers to begin with, that's a finite set. And worse yet, if it's divisible by 6, it's still a finite set. So the answer is going to be E. So remember, a finite set is one where we can actually count the number of elements in that set. That's what a finite set is. Okay? Yeah, so yeah, be careful. You have to read the question. They change any questions, right? So you have to kind of look out for that. All right, let me see what else we have here. Number 9. You see, even number 9, I find looking a little different already. All right, so what we have here. So we have a universal set. So let's draw a diagram for a set here. Right, we have A, we have B. Right, so the universal set is 25. N of E, that's in set A, is 14. N of B is equal to 15. What else we have here? A intersect B, that's 6, so we have 6 here. And all right, so if that's 6, it means that this here is going to be 8. 8 plus 6 will give us 14, and this has to be 9, right? Now the question wants us to work out N A union B complement. So first of all, this here is A union B. Everything inside here is A union B. So A number in A union B, right, is simply going to be 8 plus 6 plus 9, right? So that's 14 plus 9, right? That is 23, right? So the number in A union B is 23, but your universal set is 25, so that means we have 2 on the outside here. So if you want to work out the number in A union B complement, that number is simply going to be 2. So the answer is A, right? The answer is A. Right, question 10, we've seen this before. I don't know if it's the same question though. Item 10 refers to the following Venn diagram. We have two sets T and C. Two sets T and C that represent 9 students in a class. The 9 students in a class. Some of whom play tennis and chess. How many students play tennis but not chess? Right? They play tennis but not chess. Okay, this is the same question as before, right? So we have Ali, we have Alex, we have Tom, we have Keela. So that's 4 of them, right? The answer is C. All right, we have Q is odd numbers, R is even numbers, P is prime numbers, which is an empty set. So the empty set will be the intersection of odd and even numbers, right? So that's Q and R, so that's D. So an odd number cannot be an even number at the same time, right? That's not possible. Right, number 12, just be careful with number 12. There are a few versions to this question here. So we have teacher May's class, 30 students. They can have either dog, or a cat, or none of the two. 16 dogs, students have dog, 12 have cat, and the remainder have neither cat nor dog. What's the answer for 12? All right, everybody's saying D. Yeah, I agree. It is D. All right. All right, so this one here, we saw this question here. I don't know if they change up anything, but a bank EC 260 is equivalent to 1 US. And they said that for every dollar exchange, 10 cents is deducted. How much EC dollars will Leon have if he exchanges 1,000 US? So first of all, US $1, right? What you actually get is not 260, but you get 250. So EC 250. And we're trying to figure out if we have US $1,000, what do we get, right? All I need to do is to take that 250 and multiply by 1,000. So you're going to get EC, right? You're going to move your decimal point 3 places to the right. So that's 2500. So that's going to give us 2,500, which is C. Okay. Right. Some of these questions are slightly different. If sales tax is charged at a rate of 1.5% on the mark price of an item, then the sales tax on a dress which costs $1,800. All right, so first of all, we have to find 1.5% multiplied by 1,800, right? So we want to get the sales tax here. So this is the same as saying 1.5 over 100 multiplied by 1,800 or 1. These two zeros will cancel. So we need to work out 18 multiplied by 1.5. So that 8 5s are 40. 1 5 is 5 and 4, 9. Shift here. 8 by 1 is 8. So this will give us 0, 7, 2, right? But because we have one decimal place, it's going to be 27. All right. So therefore, the sales tax here is going to be $27. Answer is E. Right, so this is probably one of the first times I've seen them bring compound interest in the multiple choice. They said $7,000 is invested at a rate of 5% per annum, compound interest for 2 years. Then the total amount accruing at the end of the 2 years is what? So first of all, this is a compound interest question. So the compound interest formula is given by principal by 1 plus your rate over 100 raised to the power n, right? That's a compound interest formula. Now this formula here would give you the total amount in the account after that period of time. So first of all, we have 7,000 and you're multiplying that by 1 plus your rate. So the rate is 5%, so that's 5 over 100. And you are doing this for 2 years, okay? So this is going to be 7,000, right? Multiplied by 1 plus 5 over 100 is 0.05. And we're going to square that. Now, again, this is the multiple choice, and you're expected to work this out here. So this could be a little challenging for some people, right? So let's work out 1.05. You're squaring that, so we have to multiply that by 1.05. Okie doke. So 5 by 5 is 25. So that's 25 here, right? 1 5 is 5, right? Then we shift by 1, right? But then all of these here will be 0, right? Then we have to shift by 2 zeros, and then we'll have 5, 0, and 1, right? So this will be 5, this will be 2, this will be 10, right? How many decimal points we have there? We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let me just make sure that's correct. 1.05. Yeah, that's correct, right? So that's 1.05 squared. So this is really 7,000 multiplied by 1.1025. All right. Now imagine getting this question in the exam here and trying to work this out, right? So we still need to work out at them. So let's start. So it's 7,000 multiplied by 1.1025, right? So first of all, let's see. We can try to simplify this by not dealing with the zeros. So what you could do, you could say 7, right? Just hold on. We can say 1.1025, and let's just multiply that by 7 first of all, right? So that's 7 5s are 35, 2 7s are 14, and 3 is 17, 1 7 is 7, and 1 7 is 7, right? So first of all, we just need to look for an answer that looks like this here, right? So in this case here, the only answer that looks like that will be C. And if you all want to understand how I got that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 7.7175, but you're still missing out 1,000 here. So we still need to shift that back to the right. So it becomes 7717.50. All right. So you have to kind of use some maths here because in the exam, there's no calculator. So the answer is C. Right? When you say a quick method, what do you mean? Right? I'm always open to suggestion if there's a faster way to work out something. All right, number 17. We saw this one already. So I probably won't work this one again. Right? Yeah, we saw this one previously. Same question. Is it, let's see, 350. That's the cash price. How much you actually paid? It would have been $35. Plus, we have 12 installments of $30. So 12 3s are 36. So that's 360. So that's 395. All right. So basically, we have to take 395. That's your hire purchase minus the cash price, and you're going to get 45. Right. So same question as before. Answers D. All right. Question 18. The simple interest on 900 at 4% per annum is 108. What's the value of T? So first of all, simple interest is equal to principal by rate by time over 100. So you want to get T. So if I rearrange this formula, your time is simply going to be 100 multiplied by your interest all over principal by rate. So this is going to be 100 multiplied by the interest, which was 108, all over the principal, which is 900 multiplied by 4. So this here will cancel with this. This 9 will go into 9, 1. This will be 1, 2. Right? 12 divided by 4. That's going to give us 3 years. So the answer is B. Oh, you also have missed out 16? Hold on, yeah. What did I miss out 16, man? Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry. I'll go back to 16 just now, right? Missed that clean. Yeah, the 16. An article was bought for 360 after a discount of 10% was given. The cost price of the article. Okay, so this is one of those tricky ones as well, right? In the paper too, we got a question something like this right now, right? So let's see. So an article is bought for 360 after a discount of 10%. So first of all, when you're dealing with things like cost price and selling price, your cost price is assigned a percentage value of 100%. Okay? Now they're saying that you paid 360 for the item, and that is because you got a discount of 10%. So that means that the price that you paid for this thing here, you actually paid 90% of the value. Now 90% of the value in this case here is equivalent to $360. The question wants you to work out the cost price. So they want you to work out for 100%. That's what they want. So in the paper two, we had a question like this here, and I'm sure a lot of people got it wrong. So we cross multiply here. We'll say 100 multiplied by 360 all over 90. So in this case here, 0 will cancel with this. 9 could go into 9, 1. 9 can go into this 4 times. So 100 by 4 will give us $400. Right? So this is our cost price here, $400. The answer is D. Right? So that's number 16. Right? What did I miss? Yeah, some of these questions slightly different, right? Some of them slightly different. Look at this one here. They change up the numbers in this one. No, this one is a computer this time. At the end of any year, a computer is worth 4% less than what it was worth at the beginning of the year. If the computer is worth 4,200 in December 23, okay, so the last question like this, we use a car. So that's Jan 2023. This is December 2023. Now let's assign a percentage to this here. At the beginning of the year, the value is 100%. At the end of the year, they said it's 4% less. So that means it's 96%. Now, in December 2023, the value of the computer is worth 4,200. So this here is worth 4,200. And they want me to figure out what's the value of the computer at the beginning of the year. So again, we know that 96% is equivalent to this 4,200 here. So we're trying to work out for 100. So we'll cross multiply. We'll simply say 100 multiplied by 4,200 divided by 96. Okay. So is that looking correct though? All right. So yeah. So what we can do, we can try to see what could be reduced here, right? And sevens. Now, if you're in a situation like this here, we have 4,200,000 over 96, and you're not sure how to reduce it, what you can do, you can start off with simple things. Start off with 2. If you start off with 2, you divide top and bottom by 2, you'll get 210,000, right? All over 4, 2 is 8, right? So this is 48. So what we can do, we can keep reducing, right? Until we see something that we can actually perform this division with here, okay? So in this case here, we could continue reducing here. This will be 105,000 all over 24, right? And then we're gonna have to start dividing, right? All right, so basically we can say 24, right, can go into this, right? That'll be 4 times, yeah, 4, right? 24 by 4, right? Will give us 96, but we have 105. So 105 minus 96, right? That's 9, right? All right, so when you work out all of this here, right? I remember the answer. You should get 4375. You should get D, right? You should get D. Right? So some of you are saying there's an easier way. If there's an easy way, go ahead, right? Go ahead, whatever way you are comfortable with, once you get the same answer. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I could see a lot of people spending real time trying to figure this one out, right? And the thing is, they give us numbers here that's a little tricky to do the long divisions, right? All right, let's see what's happening with this next one here, right? That's 16. All right, that's 19, right? Question 20. A man's basic pay for a 40-hour week is $480. Overtime is paid at 25% in excess of the basic rate. In a certain week, he works overtime and his total wage is 600. Altogether, the number of hours he works. All right, so this question here seems to be a new question, right? It's a new question and it is a little trickier, right? All right, let's see. So the basic wage, right, is $480. Right, that's the basic wage. Now it's a 40-hour week here. So the basic hourly rate, right, is 480 divided by 40. So in this case here, this will cancel with this. So this will work out to $12 an hour, right? $12 an hour. 12 hours of. Yeah, $12 an hour, right? So that's the basic hourly rate. Now they're telling us that overtime is paid at 25% in excess, right? Now this word in here could be a little tricky for some. All right, what do we know? On a certain week you work 600 hours, right? So, sorry, you got $600. So $600, right? This is actually made up of the 480, that's normal pay, basic wage, right? Plus, to work out the overtime, right? So this is overtime here. So that overtime will be $600 minus the 480. So that's going to give us $120, right? So we have to use this $120, but we need to work out the overtime hourly rate, right? Now this is the part that could be a little confusing here. So overtime is paid at 25% in excess, right? 25% in excess of basic wage. So what we're going to do, we're going to find 25%, right? Multiply by your $12, right? Now that's the same as saying a quarter multiplied by 12. So that's going to give you $3, right? So this is the 25% they're talking about here. So it's 25% in excess. So this is going to be a total of 12 plus 3. So we're going to get $15 per hour overtime. So we're going to use this figure here, the overtime part of it. So the number of hours is simply going to be 120. That's the paid hours for overtime divided by 15 per hour, right? So in this case here, how much are you going to get here? So So 3 can go into both of them here. So this is 4 3s are 12, and this is 5. So this is going to be 8 hours here, right? So that's the overtime hours here. But the question says, what's the time altogether? So it is going to be the 40 basic hours plus the 8 hours overtime. So we're going to get 48 as the answer. So the answer is C. So you see, this question is not as simple as it looks, right? Right? Yeah, you can't use calculator, right? That's why I'm trying to work out all the questions for you without using a calculator, right? So when it comes to the multiple choice, you don't have to show any working. So if you find an easier way to work the problem, whether it's trial and error or reason out, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Right? This one here, we had an X issue with this one here. The sum of 7 times the number A and the number B may be written as what, right? So I remember when students came out, this particular question here proved to be a challenge. Yeah, this is going to be posted. It's been recorded here, so you have access to it. What do you all think is the answer for this one? Right? So you all see in the so the wording of this question, like I said, the wording of this question is a problem, right? How they worded the question is an issue, right? That's the problem here. So the sum, so first of all, it looks very similar to a question that we've seen before. But they said the sum, right? Now is the sum of what? Right? Is the sum of what? Is the sum of 7 times a number A and a number B. Right? Now, if I were to read this here and interpret this, we are adding 2 things. What are we adding? We're adding 7 times a number A, right? And a number B. So for me, the only answer that makes sense here is going to be C, right? That's my interpretation of this question here. Okay? So it's the sum, right, of 7 times a number A, right, and the number B. Right? Some people say the answer is D. Yeah, so there was, so like I said, this particular question here, some people say the answer is C, and some people say the answer is D, right? But like I said, it has to do with the English in the question here. That's the problem, right? Right? But for this one here, I'm thinking the answer should be C though, right? The answer should be C for this one. Right? Let's try next one here. This is 22. So they gave them an algebraic fraction, right? I'm not sure if I've seen this properly here, but it's 4a squared b squared, I believe, all over 42a cube b. I want to work this out here, right? We have 14, right? So the first thing, if you want, instead of having it written like this, you can write it as 14a squared b squared divided by 42, right? A cube b, right? Now you're dividing, so the first thing you'll do is divide your numbers here, right? So 14 over 42. So let's work that on the side here. If you want 14 over 42, this could be reduced, right? So this is 7 2s are 14, and this will be 21. So therefore, this is actually 1/3, right? So this is 1/3. 14 over 42 is 1/3. Let's deal with the a squared and the a cube. So a squared divided by a cube. You're going to subtract your indices there. So 2 minus 3. So we're going to get a to the power minus 1. So this is a to the minus 1. We're going to deal with the b's now. So for the b's here, it is b squared divided by b. So you're going to subtract indices. So that's 2 minus 1. So we're going to get b here. So this is b. Now let's write this now as a single fraction. This is the same as saying 1/3 multiplied by a to the minus 1 is 1 over a multiplied by b. So this is going to be b all over 3a. So the answer is a. Hopefully you all get paper to work on this time, right? Hopefully you get paper to work on this time, right? Things are going to be a little different for this year's exam compared to Jan 26, right? All right, so that's 22. Let's see what this next one is here. So this next one here, we have 3 to the power 2x plus 1 multiplied by 1 over 9 to the power x. And we want to work this out here, but it's telling us that x is minus a half, right? So let's see, how are we going to do this? So this here will be 3 to the power 2. Now x is minus a half, so let's plug in the minus a half here. Plus 1 multiplied by 1 over 9 to the power minus a half. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. So this is going to be 3 to the power. 2 by minus a half will give us minus 1. Minus 1 plus 1, we get 0. Multiplied by 1 over, right? So 9 to the power minus a half, that's the same as saying 3 squared, right? And this is to the power minus a half. Now 3 to the power 0 is 1 multiplied by, this here will be 1 over 3 to the power minus 1, right? So this is actually 1 multiplied by 1 over 1/3. So this is 1 multiplied by 3. So we get 3 here. The answer is A. There's some tricky questions in this one, right? Right, so that's 23. Yeah, there are a few tricky questions in this paper. I can see that. All right, 24. Right, so we've seen 24 before. I can't remember the answer, but it's 5 by 2x minus 1 equal to 35. 2x minus 1 is equal to 35 over 5. X minus 1 is equal to 7. 2x is equal to 7 plus 1. 2x is equal to 8. And x is equal to 8 over 2. x is equal to 4, right? The answer is D. All right, what's happening here now? So the sum of two numbers is 140. So we don't know those two numbers, so let's call them x and y. So when we add up two numbers, we get 140. They're also telling us that one of the number is 10 less than 2 times the other, right? So it is 10 less than 2 times the other. Now we're not sure which one is which, right? So if it's 10 less than 2 times the other, right? One number right? So we can probably do something like this, right? A statement like this here. If they said 10 less than 2 times the other, right? So this is subtracting 10 from 2 times a number, right? So basically you have a simultaneous equation here, all right? So let's call this equation 1 and let's call this equation 2. So we can substitute 2 into 1. So we can say x plus 2x minus 10 is equal to 140. So this is 3x is equal to 140 plus 10. So 3x is equal to 150. And therefore x is 150 all over 3. So therefore x is equal to 50. So one of the number seems to be 50. And the other number will simply be 2x minus 10. So that's 2 by 50 minus 10. So that's going to be 100 minus 10. So that's going to be 90. So the answer is 50 and 90. E. What are you saying about 24 is wrong? Which one is 24? Did I reach yours yet? 24? I'm not sure why you're saying 24 is wrong. 24 is correct. All right, 26. All right, we have we have a binary operation here. We're trying to figure out which one is true. We have two pieces of information. 2 star 3 is equal to 1. And we know that 4 star 7 is equal to 9. We're trying to figure out which one it is, right? So let's try the 6a minus b. So we have to do this by trial and error, right? So 2 star 3 is equal to 6 by 2 minus 3. So that's 6 2s are 12 minus 3, which will give us 9. So this out, right? Let's try the next one here. A star b is equal to a squared minus b. So let's try 2 star 3. So this is going to be 2 squared minus 3, which is 4 minus 3, which is 1. So it works for this first one. Let's check it for the 4 star 7. 4 star 7. So this is going to be 4 squared minus 7. So that's 4 4s 16, right? Minus 7, and you'll get 9. So the answer is going to be B. Yeah, I did 25. I did 25 already. Right. Question 27. We saw this one last night. So this is just a scalar product here. So if you want to work out 3a 3a is simply going to be 3 multiplied by 1, 3 minus 3, 305, right? So this will be 3, 9 minus 9, 9, 0, 50, right? So 3, 9 minus 9, 9, 0, 15, the answer is E. Right, that's 27. 28, we've seen this more than once. The determinant of the 2 by 2 identity matrix. So your identity is 1, 0, 0, 1. So if you want to work out your determinant, it's simply going to be 1 by 1 minus 0 by 0. So this will be 1 minus 0, which is 1. Sorry, which is E, right? E. Right, 29, we saw this one as well. We want to get TL. Oh, wait. They did something a little different here, right? So this is A here. This is also A. This is B. So this is also B here. Now, this time they look like they access a different vector. They want TL as this vector here. Okay. So if you want to get TL, the vector TL is simply going to be TO, right, plus OL. So the vector TO is going to be minus B plus the vector OL, which is going to be 2A. So this is going to be minus B plus 2A, right? Or you could say 2A minus B. So the answer is B. All right, question T. Just today, somebody from my class asked me this question here. I had to fix something on the platform. All right, so we have a matrix here, and they said this matrix maps the point P onto Q. Okay, so first of all, the point P is given by 2, 5, and this actually maps onto Q, that is given by minus 1 and 2. Okay, now the matrix A is what does that. So if I had to work this out here, you would have written down the matrix A, which is 2A, B minus 2, and you would have multiplied that by the point 2, which is 2, 5, right? Point P, sorry. And the answer should be minus 1 and 2, right? So that's how you use a matrix in order to perform a transformation. Now on the left-hand side, if we do row by column, 2 by 2 is 4. So this is going to be 4 plus 5A on top. We do an next row by column. So 2 by B will give us 2B minus 10. So on the left-hand side, when you multiply that matrix there, you'll end up with this. So if you equate the elements, you're going to say that 4 plus 5A is equal to negative 1. So 5A is negative 1 minus 4. So 5A is equal to minus 5, and therefore A is minus 5 over 5. So A is minus 1, right? So you have A. To work out B now, we're just going to put 2B minus 10 is equal to 2. So 2B is equal to 2 plus 10. So 2B is equal to 12, and therefore B is 12 over 2. So B is equal to 6. So you're looking for minus 1 and 6. So the answer is C in this case. Right, the answer is C. Right. What else we have here? All right, next one here now. We've seen this one before. 1 centimeter, at least I think so. No. Actually, this question is a little different. If you all recall the last question like this we saw, they were talking about 1 millimeter. Now this one here is centimeters. So you want to convert 2.5 kilometers, and you want to convert that to centimeters. That's what you want to do. Now this is a conversion here. If I want to convert centimeters to kilometers, I divide by 100,000. So if you want to convert kilometers to centimeters, you have to take 2.5 and you're going to multiply that by 100,000. So this question is a variation to one that we had previously. So let's see. So that's 2.5. And if you want to multiply by 100,000, you're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places to the right. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be here. So you're going to have 250,123 cm. Right? 250,000 cm. Right? So that's your answer there in centimeters. All right, question 32. All right, what do we have here? We have a triangular prism, and based on the dimensions there, the triangle is an isosceles triangle. So you want to work out the surface area of the triangular prism, right? You want to work out the surface area of the triangular prism. So first of all, we need to work out, we have the slanted length. All right, let's start with the triangles, right? So this is 6 here. This is 10. This will be 10 on top here. This is a 5 here, and this is a 5 here, right? So let's look at all the faces that we have to work out. So let's work out the first triangle here will be a half by the base, which is 6, by the height, which is 4. So that is 6 over 24. So this is 12. So let's start adding. So that triangle here is 12 plus this other triangle here will be 12 because you want surface area. The base, right? This piece here is going to be 10 by 6, which is 60. And then we have two slanted pieces here. Those slanted pieces are 10 by 5. That's 50. So that's a 50 plus another 50. So if I add up all of this, I hopefully should get the answer. 2 plus 2 is 4. 5 and 5, 10 and 6, 16, 17, 18. So we get 184 cm squared. We have anything like that? Yeah, we do. Right? The answer is C. All right, number 33. Let's see what's happening here with 33. All right, we saw this question last night. I don't know if it's the same. Yeah, it's the same thing. All right. So we have 15 meters. Right. That 15 meters is 15,000 ml. They said each guest has 2 glasses of champagne. So 2 by 150. So therefore, each guest has 300 ml. So if you want to work out the number of guests, we have to take the total amount of champagne, right, and divide it by 300, right? So as far as I remember, the answer is 50. We had the same 50 again, right? 50 guests. All right, for this one here, they change up the question. They said the radius of a pond, if the radius of a pond in terms of pi is 44 on pi. So the radius of the pond, right? So the radius of the pond is 44 over pi. And then the distance around the edge. So you want to work out the circumference. Circumference is 2 pi r. So this is going to be 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by r. They're telling us the radius is 44 over pi. So this pi will cancel with this. 44 by 2 will give us 88. Okay, so in this case here, the answer is going to be A. All right, perimeter of a square is that. What's the area? We saw the same question before. So the perimeter, right, that's side, 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 side. So 4 times one side is 56. So S is equal to 56 over 4. So therefore one side is 1, right? So that's 14 cm. So the area is equal to side squared. So that's 14 squared. So that's 196. So the answer is D. All right, I think we've seen this one before. So the area of the trapezium is 80. What's the height? So the area of a trapezium would be half multiplied by the sum of the parallel sides, which is 12 plus 20. And you're multiplying by the height, which we don't know. And that's equal to 80. So this is going to be 12 plus 20. That'll give us 22, right? So this will be a half by, right? So we're adding this here. So that's going to be 32 by h is equal to 80. So this is 16. H is equal to 80. So therefore h is 80 over 16. So therefore h is equal to, so you start reducing this here, this will be 40 over 8. So therefore h is 5. So the answer is A. Right, so next one here, this one is 37. Right, they want us to work out what is the volume of this compound shape here. So we have this shape here, and they want to work out the volume of this thing here. All right, what do we have here? Let's say we have a diagram, shows a compound shape, consists of a triangular prism with a height of 3 cm. Right, so if this is 6, right, this here is also going to be 6 cm, this is 6 cm. So if we work out this part here, that volume there of that cuboid is going to be 6 by 6 by 10. So that's 660, that's 36 by 10, that's 360 cm cube. So that's the volume of the cuboid at the base there. If we look at this triangular prism, right, this length here, from here to here, is 6 cm. So that's the base. The height is 3 cm. So therefore, the volume of that prism there is going to be the base area, which is a half by 6 by 3. That's the area of the triangle, multiplied by the length of the prism, the triangular prism here, which is 10. So this is going to be, half of 6 is 3. 3 by 3 is 9. So this is going to be 90 cm cube. So the total volume will be 90 plus 360. So that's 0, 9 and 6 is 15. So that's going to give us 450 cm cube. So the answer is C, right? The answer is C. Right, so that's 37. Right, what we have here now. When a pilot left a country to travel to country B, the time at which his watch was 2250. The distance between country A and B is 3,000 kilometers, which the pilot covered at an average speed of 625 kilometers per hour for the entire journey. Assuming that both countries are in the same time zone, what was the time in country B when the pilot arrived the next day? All right, so what happened in here? We have A. All right, so we have country A here, we have country B, and we know that right, so this time here is initially 2250 hours, right? That's the time here. Now you're traveling to country B here. The distance between the two countries here is 3000 km, right? And the speed is 625 kilometers per hour, right? So the first thing I'll do, I'll work out the time. So remember, speed is distance over time. So if you want to work out time, time is distance divided by speed. So in this case here, it'll be 3000 divided by 625, right? That's what we need to work on. All right, so how are we going to do this here? So in this case here, we could start off by dividing by 5, or we can divide by 25, right? So 25 can go into this 120 times, right? And this is 6 over 24. This is 120, right? 25 can go into this 6 4s are 24, 25 times, right? We can start reducing this here. So this will work out to 2 5s are 10, 24 over 5, which is 4 4/5, right? Let me double check that for you. Yeah, 4 4/5, right? So there's the time here that it takes to do this. Now you're starting off at 2250, right? So you have to figure out what time is that. Okay. Now the best way to do this is to think of it like this. This 4/5 of an hour, I should work that into minutes, right? To convert 4/5 to minutes, I just have to multiply by 60. All right, so this will be 12. So this will be 48 minutes, right? So this actual trip here is taking 4 hours, right? And 48 minutes. That's how long this trip is taking. Okay. Now you are starting at 2250, right? 2250. Now what I will do here first, I will try to figure out how long does it take for me to reach 2400, right? You see, as every time you're crossing like that 12 a.m. threshold, that becomes problematic, right? So what I'll do, I'll take 2400 hours minus 2250, right? So let's borrow from this here. This is hours, this is minutes. All right, so this will become 23 hours. But when you borrow 1 hour, that's 60. So 60 minus 50 will give us 10. So this is 1 hour and 10 minutes. So from here to here, right, that is an hour and 10 minutes. Okay? Now, I don't know if that's making sense to you guys here, right? But so that's an hour and 10 minutes that already went. So all I need to do now to get the actual time that I reached there, I have to take the 4 hours and 48. Right? Let me just watch your chat here. Is that making sense to you all? Oh. Right? All I need to do is to take the 4 hours and the 48, and I just need to subtract an hour and 10. That's all I need to, right? An hour and 10 minutes. So 48 minutes minus 10 minutes, you'll get 38 minutes. And 4 take away 1 is 3. So the time at which you will arrive there will be 3:38 a.m. So the answer is B. Right? These questions, they are not that simple, right? Right? Somebody say where the 4/8 come? The 4/5, you mean? 120 divided by 25. 120 divided by 25, you'll get 4 hours, right? 4 and 4/5 hours. That's what you're going to get. That's where that came from. Right, question 39. We've seen this so many times already. Right, so there are 15 test scores arranged in... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me read it properly, right? The question is different, right? The question is different, so please read it, right? We saw this twice already, but this question is different. 15 test scores. For reporting purposes, selected the score that appeared most often, right? So it's a different question. So the one that appears most often here is mood, right? In previous questions, the answer was median, but this is mood. Right? So see why it's important to read the question carefully. Right, in this one here, we have a cumulative frequency curve. We have 200 students. We have their marks for a driving test. How many students scored at most 45, right? At most means 45, right, or less. That's what that means. So your cumulative frequency curve always gives us less than information. So all you need to do is to draw a line here, right, at 45. And we're going to read that off going to the left. Now, first of all, let's make sure we understand the scale: 20, 40, 60, 100, 140, 180. All right. Right. So that means that each small line represents 4. So that's 164. That is going to be about 166. Right. The answer is going to be C for this one here, 166. Right? And next one here, they want the median. So you need to read off at 100. When you read off at 100 here, that's about 35, 36, about 37.5, right? That's your median there. So you're reading off, you're going to cross this way this time, reading off at 100, and then you're going to come downwards here, right? So it's around here. That's where the median is, somewhere here. Right, question 42. I think we saw this one last night. All right, so the mean of 4 numbers, 4, 8, x, and 12 is 10. So if you take 4 plus 8 plus x plus 12, and you divide that by 4, that's how you get the mean of those 4 numbers. The answer is 10. So if I were to cross multiply, I'll get 4 plus 8 plus x plus 12 is equal to 4 by 10, which is 40. So this is going to be x. 8 and 12 is 20. So that's x plus 24 is equal to 40. So therefore, x is equal to 40 minus 24. So therefore, x is equal to 60. Right? So the missing number here is 60. All right, for this one here, how many students play cricket or football? Right, cricket or football. So first of all, we have 720 students. and you want to figure out how many students play cricket or football. So this is cricket, this is football here, right? So I need to figure out how many played tennis, right? And how many played basketball. So for tennis, all we need to do is to take 36 divided by 360 and multiply that by 720. That's what we need to work out, right? So 36 could go into 36 one time, 10 could go into this here. This 0 will cancel with this. So you have a total of 72 who played tennis. For the football, that angle there is 90. So that's a quarter of 720, right? That's what we need to work out. So in this case here, 4 can go into 7 one time, and that's 32. So that's going to be 80. So it's 180 here for football. So when I add up all of this here, that'll be 2, 7, and 7, 14, and 1, 15. So that's 252 here, right? That making sense? So I'm looking wrong here. Cricket or football? Oh, right. I made a boo-boo here, right? I made a boo. I'm not finished with the question, right? So this is one cricket or football, right? Oh, and now see what I did here. All right, I worked out tennis, right? I need to work out basketball, right? Basketball is 30%. So that's 30 over 100 multiplied by 720. So this 0 will cancel with this. This will cancel with this. So that's 72 by 3, right? So that's 72 multiplied by 3. So 2 3s are 6, 7 3s 21. So that's 260. So this is 216 here, right? So what I just worked out there would have been tennis and basketball. Now let's add up these two here now. So that's 6 and 2, 8. 7 and 1 is 8. So that's 288. So that's the total for tennis and basketball. So if you want cricket or football, I have to take 720 minus 288, right? So let's start doing some borrowing here. This will be 6. This is 12. This is 11. This is 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 8, 9, 10, 11. This is 3. So we get 432, right? So cricket or football will be 432. Answer C. Right? Some people say to the top percent. You can. Yeah, you could if you want. Whichever one is easier for you guys. Now, number 44. A student is picked at random. What's the probability that a student plays neither tennis nor football? Right? Neither tennis nor football. So if they don't, right? If it's neither tennis nor football, so make sure I'm reading this correct, right? Tennis nor football. We're looking for cricket or basketball. Because if they're not playing tennis or football, they're playing cricket or they're playing basketball, right? I already worked out the basketball. I got 216, right? So 216 is basketball, but I need to figure out cricket here, right? So we getting cricket. Well, right, I'm trying to find an easy way we could do this, right? Because we have to do some subtractions. I didn't work out football as yet. I could have leave the answer for football just now. Football would have been it was a quarter. So football was a quarter multiplied by the 720. Right? So that would have been 180. Right? So the football was 180. So this is 180 here. Right? So you want to work out neither tennis nor basketball, right? So we have to add, so 1 second, guys. Let me just write down what I knew because I'm starting to confuse my own self, right? So football is 180, right? This football here is 180. Tennis is 72. This is 72 here, right? Basketball is 216. right? I can work out cricket now, right? So to work out cricket, I have to add up 72 plus 216 plus 180. All right, so 6 and 2 is 8. 7 and 1, 8, and it is 16. So that's 2, 3, 4. That's 468, right? So therefore, the cricket will be 720 minus 468. So this will be 6. This is 12. This is 11. This is 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. This will be 5. Right? So this is 152. Right? Hopefully those numbers correct here now. Okay, so I want the probability that it's neither tennis nor football. So if it's not tennis nor football, it's cricket and basketball. So that's 216 plus 152 all over 720. So this is 6 and 2 is 8, 5 and 1 is 6. So that's 368 over 720. All right, I hope that makes sense, yes? All right, let me double check that. Something looking wrong here, right? Looking pretty wrong. Okay, so this is correct. Basketball is 50%, so this is correct here. That's 216. Right. Football would have been a quarter, so that's 180. Right. So this is 720. Oh, right. I see the issue here already. All right. So I have an error here. This should have been 252, not 152. So this is 468 over 720. Right? And if you try to reduce this, you'll get 13 over 20. Right? So the answer is D. Yeah, so I saw the error, right? 6 minus 4, yeah, it's 2, right? All right, like somebody said, they're making you work real hard to get that 1 mark, right? All right, question 47, right? So I just did this with my Form 4 class there, giving them the same question just now. All right, which of the following represents a linear function? The answer is going to be A, right? Not B. The answer is A. They want the coordinates of the max point. So this here is going to be 2, 4, right? I think they've changed up the which answer is which. So the answer is 2, 4. Question 49, which of the following functions is undefined at the point x is equal to minus 2? So we're looking for a scenario where the function is undefined. So in this case, it'll be D, right? Because if I were to put 5 over minus 2 plus 2, you're going to end up with 5 over 0. A function is undefined when the denominator is equal to 0. So that is D, right? That's D. All right, question 50 here, we have a composite function. So we have g of x is equal to x squared plus 1. So you want to work out g of minus 1. So the first thing I'll do, I'll find g of minus 1, and then I'm going to plug that here. So g of minus 1 is going to be minus 1 squared plus 1. Minus 1 squared is 1. 1 plus 1, you get 2. So we're going to take that answer now, and we're going to plug that into g again. So this is going to be 2 squared plus 1. So that's going to be 4 and 1. You're going to get 5. So the answer is D. Right. I am good for now. A little tired. Looking forward to when exams finish. Right. See somebody asking in the chat there. Yeah, I think I'm tired now. Right. I need a break. 51. We saw this one last night. All right, so we have parking lot charges $1 plus 25 cents for every hour. So the cost function is simply going to be 0.25 multiplied by how many hours plus 1.00. So the answer is going to be B. Right, that's the parking function. All right, so we have a mapping diagram here, and you want to know which one best represents the function. So if you look carefully here, we go from 2 to 5. That's adding 3. We add in 3 here. So the answer is 8, right? All right, for this one here, they said, what kind of transformation is this? Well, if you look carefully here, what's happening here, it's a reflection, right? It's a reflection in that line. All right, this one here, in which of the following polygons is the sum of the interior angles twice the sum of the exterior angles? So we need to know so sum of exterior angles, right, is equal to 360. Doesn't matter what polygon it is, the sum of the exterior angles adds up to 360. Now, they said, so the formula for the sum of the interior angles right, is equal to n minus 2 multiplied by 180. Right, that's the formula we use to work out the sum of the interior angles. Now they are telling me that the sum of the interior angles is twice the sum of the exterior angles. So that means that n minus 2, right, by 180, that's the sum of the interior angles, is equal to twice the sum of the exterior. So it's going to be twice, so that's 2 by 360. All right, so basically we have n minus 2 by 180 is equal to 720, right? So therefore n minus 2 is equal to 720 divided by 180, right? So this works out to give us 4. So therefore n is equal to 4 plus 2. So n is equal to 6. So if n is equal to 6, that's a hexagon, right? The answer is B. Yeah, I think that's the paper I'll do tomorrow, Sadiq, right? That might be the paper I'll do tomorrow. But when I look at the questions on that paper though, that Jan 26, to be honest, a lot of the questions I did in my the crash course I did with you guys, right? My normal Form 5 class. A lot of the questions there, we've seen them before though. What they want here now. So we have a translation. So in the diagram, the translation ABC is mapped onto A prime, B prime, C prime. Right, so where is E? So we're going this way. Right, so we need to figure out what's that vector there. So first of all, what we can do, we can use the points if you want. So A is actually 2, 3. And that maps on to A prime, which is minus 3, 6. Yeah, right? So if you want to work out the translation vector, all we need to do is say A prime minus A. So that's 3, 6. And you're going to minus 2, 3. So minus 3 minus 2 will give us minus 5. And 6 minus 3 will give us 3. So we're looking for minus 5, 3, which is E. Right, so that's 55. All right, so we have a point P here, and it's rotated about the origin through an angle of 90 degrees in an anti-clockwise direction. What are the coordinates of the image P? Okay, now for this particular question here, some students, they might try to reason it out like this. They might draw a little sketch, and they might decide, well, you know what, I can figure this out. So they can say that point P is 2 minus 3. So 2 minus 3 is somewhere down here, right? And then what's going to happen now, they're going to rotate this point here, going this way, and that's going to end up in this quadrant here, right? But it has to be a 90-degree angle. So this here is 2 minus 3. And then we're going to rotate this going 90 degrees that way, right? So we have here. And then what's going to happen is this is our 90-degree here, and we need to figure out what that coordinate is here, right? So first of all, if you rotate that there, this should be 2, and this here is going to be 3. So this point here should be 2, 3, right? I hope that kind of makes sense. So it's going to be B. Right, which one is C? For which part you all talking about? 45 and 46? What are you all talking about, man? Right, 45 and 46. Which one is that, babe? I missed 2 whole questions, so. Oh. All right, let me see what people say. All right, I'll skip 45 and 46. Yeah, hold on. I'll come back to it. All right, like I said, I think I'm tired now. Right, I think I'm tired now. All right, 45, 46 here. Let's see. The one equation of the line that crosses the vertical axis at the point 0.05 and has greater than 4. So that's simply going to be y is equal to 4x plus 5. I told you the slope, and this here is the y-intercept. So the answer is going to be C. Right, so that's 45. 46, the point where a linear function crosses the vertical axis. So if you're crossing the vertical axis, that's your y-intercept. So the answer is B. Right, the answer is B. Right, so hope that making some sense there. Right, where did I reach now? So we now on number, right, so we did 56, 57. Right, I think we saw 57 last night. All right, so they want to know what ratio represents 4/8. So first of all, if we use the x here, right, this here would be considered our opposite, and this here is your hypotenuse. So if we say sine of x is opposite of hypotenuse, that'll be 4/8. So therefore sine x is what we're looking for. The answer is going to be D, right? The answer is D. Right, this 58, we've seen this one so many times. Right, by now you all should know the answer for this by heart. All right, so they're looking for, it's an enlargement, and they want to know the scale factor. Again, just grab one of these lengths here. So in this case here, that's 4. So this will be 4 divided by this length here, which is 2. So you're going to get a scale factor of 2. Answer C. Right, question 59, we've also seen this one before, right? I can tell you off the bat the answer is going to be 90, right? So basically we have a plane that is traveling 45 degrees this way. So this is 45, right? That's the bearing there. And then it changes direction, right? On a bearing of 135. So 135 is coming this way, right? So what we can do, we can work out this angle here, which is 180 minus 45. That's 135. And when you all work this out here, you'll get 90, right? So the answer is right. We also saw this one last night as well. They want you to estimate the height of the building. So all we need to do, we have to use this right angle triangle here. The base is 1.2. And we need to work out this height here. So we can say that tan 40 is equal to opposite. So let's call this x here. That's x over your 12. So therefore x is equal to 12 multiplied by tan 40. Right? But you want to get the height of the whole building. That's this whole height here. Right? So that whole height, let's call it big H. So big H is simply going to be x, which is 12 tan 40, right? Plus the 1.6 here, right? So that's our height of the building. 1.6 plus 12 tan 40, which is B, right? The answer is B. Right? Yeah, so, right, so that takes care of May 2025, right? I see a lot of people asking for Jan 26. Yeah, I can run through Jan 26 tomorrow. That's not a problem, right? Yeah, so any questions before we go? All right, guys, so please remember to hit like and subscribe, right? I hope you guys learned something today. There were lots of tricky questions on this 2025 paper here. So the recording is going to be up. Have a look at the recording, right? Go through the questions again. And I'll try to do the Jan 26 tomorrow, okay? All right, guys. Good night, everybody. Take care.